Okay, everybody, what is going on? This is the first bad publicity after a tremendous. What's a good way to describe what went down at Worlds in one word?
Awesome, fantastic, amazing. Sorry.
It sounds like you're trying to get supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I was really hyped. I was so hyped about what happened at Worlds.
Yeah,
I was so happy for my friend at Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I was ecstatic. It was amazing. That's what it was. Okay,
yeah. So
that's what it was.
Welcome back to Bad Publicity. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you. While you are here, please feel free to give us a like. Might as well do it right off the bat and get it out the way, because it could be pretty late where you are, and at the end you just kind of close your window and go to bed. So do it now. Feel free. And yeah, Hollis, why don't you take us into your thoughts, feelings, and start off with some Worlds talk.
Right. No. So the first thing I should also just mention is that unfortunately this year, I was not able to make it to Worlds. I had to make some important life decisions based on my friendships versus the hobbies that I very much enjoy. And to be honest, it wasn't that hard of a decision. I care very much for my friendships. But I did miss my friendships, my friends.
Oh, the ships. Your
I
friends.
care about their ships. But no, basically,
not you don't have a friend named Chip then, huh?
No, just friends with ships, because apparently they don't have cars. But basically, I had to choose between two groups of friends this year. One that was going to be at Worlds, and the other that's getting married. And I chose the one that is going to get married because, well, I love that person. But also, I very much missed everybody at Worlds. It was so sad. But I was able to keep my ear to the ground on what was happening, on what was being played, on how people performed. No special scoops, just hearing about the tournament, the overall vibe, and Netrunner's back, baby. That's all I'm saying, okay? If you thought Netrunner was just going to be like this thing that was floundering and dying, that turnout was pretty darn good, considering the current like where place we are in the game. Core 2.0 plus rotation felt good. The field was definitely there were some definitely choice decks that were more common, but the representation was decent as far as across the board. We had some Wayland decks in there. We had some Wayland decks in there, but Wayland still didn't. We had enough Wayland decks, but it still wasn't quite there. We were still dominated very much by CI and Haley. But there was some diversity. We saw CTM in there. We saw some hot tubs. Do you guys remember? If you guys like hot tubs, we saw that. We saw PU, guys. Potential
a real potato.
A real potato was on. I don't know if anyone saw the potato, but if you missed it, go back and watch the stream. There was a potato on the stream. It was worth every second it was on the stream.
I think I saw potato on stream twice.
Listen, you can never have too many potatoes, is what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. You can never have too many.
The vegetable memes were on point.
They were good.
Just puns all day. It's great.
Man, how can you say you love her if you won't even like get her a potato? That's all I'm saying. Like, oh yeah, someone mentioned in chat, someone was playing Heartbeat in the deck, and we were all like, "What? Mm-hmm. What is going on?"
It was the tech in certain matchups.
Yeah, it was the tech. I mean, that's sort of the story of Worlds. You have a single 1x of a card, and it can make a huge difference. Am I right?
Yep, certainly can.
Yeah. Of course, shout out to Wolfie Horig, who is the brand new Australian. No, world. Not just Australian, ladies and gentlemen, the world champion. Congratulations, sir. Those of you that don't know, Wolfie Horig, of course, is a co-host on the Winning Agenda, hosted by Jesse Marshall, Wolfie Horig, and occasionally, sometimes, if I feel like it, if I have the available time, myself. And I really am. I'm just so happy. Like, Jesse and Wolfie have been such great mates to create content with, and they're so knowledgeable about the game. They're so good, and I was rooting for both of them, and I'm just happy that they played their hearts out, and I'm really, really happy that Wolfie was able to make it to the top and just beat out the competition. He's a great player. I'm so happy for him, guys. It's just such a great feeling. Congratulations, Wolfie. But yeah, that's my personal recap of Worlds. My friend won the damn thing. I saw a fair amount of diversity that seemed reasonable. People seem to be having a good time. I saw a lot of great positive posts about the event on social media. A lot of really good hype and a lot of jokes. People, I saw a lot of pictures of people like taking their group photos, and people just seem to be just in good spirits. And that's what I loved the most about going to Worlds. It's not the tournament is great, yes, but I feel like because it is so challenging, it's like work. What feels great is the relationships you make with all these people that that are all based on the internet, right? You're talking to them on Slack, you're talking to them in a Facebook group or on StemHack, and all of a sudden they're real. You can reach out, you can touch them, you can say, hey, that deck idea that you posted was really, really bad, but I was wrong. It's real, real good. And it just works out. I love that. So, I don't know. Props to everybody that went to Worlds. Slops to me for not going. That's pretty much it.
I'm in the same boat for a good pinch of that. I miss the overseas connections a lot. I didn't get to run into a bunch of European buddies that I've met in Worlds gone past, so that was kind of disappointing that kind of didn't get to happen this year. Good group of guys, and I'm glad I got to at least engage in a couple little chats between matches with some of the guys, and obviously online, and then watch some good friends play on stream. So that was a good, pleasant surprise, and I'm really proud of what those guys did. But yeah, like you say, that it may be more of a party for some of us that get to go, because it's not as much of a journey to get there for some people as it is for others. So yeah, these guys that are coming from farther away, it's work, man. You got to put it in. Congrats to Wilfie. Really happy to see diversity in the in that Hall of Fame, the upper echelon of Netrunner. Dan had a good story going, but he unfortunately couldn't seal it out. But props to him. He's always up there, huh?
The man is consistent.
Yeah. I will say that to me, though, the downfall of the whole tournament was that I'm just not a fan of CI, man. I mean, flame the comments like as much as you want against me. Flare the hate now. Throw your tomatoes, throw your lettuce, whatever's custom. But I'm just not a fan of that deck and that play style, and how the support cards have just helped bubble this ID constantly, to the top. It lost a couple pieces, but obviously it's stronger than ever with pretty much a dominant showing as the ID to beat at Worlds, and I just kind of find that so blasé. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on what's your take on the CIs?
Well, I think the thing that was really interesting to watch in all of these CI games was that there wasn't just one flavor of CI that every single person was running card for card. There were different versions, nuanced combos, going all for 7 points, going for this brain rewiring combo, going for a more classic Glacier. Are you all on Mythic, or are you gear check? Are you mix sort of mid-rangey ice? There's were things that people were playing around with. Yeah. Oh, for sure. The rewiring show force or contract killer combo was pretty prevalent. But because there wasn't one defined clear best, that made it so that those CI matchups were kind of an unknown from the first few turns until you really started to figure out what is the CI trying to do, which I thought was cool. What is a little more troubling is that all of those CIs basically were running these very fundamental cards to the ID that are extremely consistent and synergistic to the ID. So all those clearances, right? Probably some Bryanston's in action, probably MCA austerity policy, and biotic labor, and you slap that all in a deck, and you're probably going to do okay, regardless of the amount of clot lock or employee strike or information sifting, right? That you can get on by in a lot of these matchups just okay.
Yeah, and then to add in on that, it's interesting too, because if you go back and listen to that last time that Boggs was on, and he talks about the decision where CI was almost put on that restricted list, it was almost pulled out of the game, and those decisions were happening behind the scenes. So what a different pool we would have seen if that was true, and
sure.
And maybe maybe this is the icing on the cake, the final dagger, the final countdown, whatever metaphor you want to use, that seals CI, and it rides off into the sunset as a champ of 2017.
Sure. And yeah, I do think that because this tool now exists of the restricted and remove list, if CI is considered to be too dominant, too overbearing, whatever the definition of getting on that list is, that tool is there. So who knows? I mean, I think there's definitely potential to see that deck or that archetype that's broadly very synergistic be kind of whittled down, or force CI players to make harder choices than just shoving in all the best cards. So we'll see.
I'm a firm believer that should happen too. So in order to keep the game as in a fresh state, I think the top decks should be given some kind of blow to them to bring them down. Like, let's shake them up. Let's not go into 2018 with carbon copies of what we've left off here at the top tournament. I know we're gonna get some more pieces, and that hopefully will change as packs are released. But I just would like to see a little bit more control now that it's available to us to help shape and push the meta away or steer the meta in certain directions.
Yep, agreed.
On the runner side, I don't really have much to say there. It's strange that Criminal couldn't crack into the top. Well, actually, it's not strange at all.
You take a look at that restricted list coming out, restricted and remove list, and you see the cards that are on there, and just really for most people, I don't think there's a compelling reason to run a Criminal deck. You take any card out of the Criminal faction that's pretty good, it's going to be splashable in either Anarch or Shaper pretty reliably. Amakua, even Gang Sign, information sifting we saw. There are very few Criminal cards that are hard to export somewhere better, and then the question remains, what's the draw to play Criminal? And unfortunately for a lot of people, there wasn't much of that.
Yeah, and that is true. We still see Anarch up there as dominant as they were in the field, and Smoke and Kaplan. So it's nice to see a little bit of green. We almost have like a little traffic light up there. You know, green and orange are there. So it is what it is. That's how we saw Worlds.
Yep.
And I would just like to point out and tip of the hat to the Netrunner community for handling any kind of situation down there as well as it probably could have been handled, from backlashes because of other community things. I don't want to go into too much details. Those people that know what we're talking about know what we're talking about. And obviously there was a little bit of salting thrown out and shade cast, but I mean, that's going to be expected. But on the whole, it sounds like the people that were involved were, you know, took it on the chin and did what they needed to do. So, like I say, kudos to that.
Props to the community for being very respectful and pretty chill about everything. I think it was. It's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I have one small shout out because I wouldn't necessarily call it small either, but I think this is a significant thing at Worlds that is worth talking about. Major shout out to Abram Jop that went undefeated in Swiss. That is sick. Like, that is actually crazy. Like, it's easy. I feel like at that level, when you get to those tables, those top tables, it's so easy to split. It's so easy to go 50-50 all the time. The man went undefeated. The man just said, what am I doing? Winning. That's what I'm doing. That's pretty sick. So, like, shout out to Abram for really just, like, sticking in those trenches and just dominating every single game, especially, I mean, going into Swiss. It was amazing.
Damn.
Yeah, that was nuts to see. He played it right to the very end and played Netrunner full out every game, it seems. So, nothing much you can say there, but well played. Anything else sitting with you guys about Worlds?
I'll see people next year.
Yeah, it looked like it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun to watch from home. Really happy to have multiple streams going of this. Shout out to all those content creators that were making stuff on the side, in addition to the FFG stream, which I thought was pretty
awesome.
solid. Yeah, overall really fun and enjoyable to watch, and a huge draw for the live audience online. Really impressive to see, like, 900 plus people at one point watching the FFG live stream. Really, really cool. Yeah.
And in conclusion, shout out to my boys that were still running Atom. That's how I want to conclude my our coverage of Worlds. Tip of the hat to those people that kept Atom on the map and in the statistic books, representing. You guys can laugh, but he's poised to be.
Man,
we're on the cusp of something here.
We just got to rename this cast Atom Publicity.
Yeah, I mean, apparently.
That's what this is now.
Ha ha ha. All right, let's do what we came here to do.
What are we talking about?
I almost was going to say Jinteki, but this is the NBN one.
Uh-oh.
We're here to talk about, this is the last one in the series. If you are a new player and have enjoyed this, you're welcome. If you're just here for the camaraderie and laughs and hang out, we appreciate that. So let's dive in here. What do we have included in this core set for those NBN fans?
Woo.
Like, we have some big changes as NBN in the core set kind of moves away from its old school fast advanced lifestyle. It's not living in the fast lane anymore. It's kind of moved down to Miami Beach and put its feet up.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I think of all the factions in the revised core set, NBN probably got shaken up the most from what its fundamental tech was to now being a pretty significantly different archetype, albeit still a really powerful one. But yeah, some really powerful cards got moved out of that core set there, which some people like myself would say is for the better, but we can get into that.
Mm-hmm. All right, do you want to break down who's taking the outs first? Let's look at what was snipped.
Sure, I'll take the lead on this one.
What was
scraped
out of NBN?
Whew, there's some major scraping. We had some really, really powerful key cards for the faction. AstroScript Pilot Program, Breaking News, Matrix Analyzer, and San City Grid. Out of here.
They're all gone.
I tell you what, there are some very, very powerful cards in that group, but one of them stands above all others as being the memorable card for longtime players of this game, that we feel it in our bones that this card is now gone. I'm referring, of course, to Matrix Analyzer.
I mean, it's amazing.
What an insane piece of ice. The number of times I have run through a Matrix Analyzer, they've put a token on a June bug, and then I take the net damage.
Brutal play, I'm telling you. Top tier.
Alec, are you trying to compete with Hollis for yes! the ruse spot on this one?
It was a perfect ruse though. It was a perfect ruse.
I was honestly, I knew it was coming from one of you two.
I had to just knock it out there. There you go. Matrix Analyzer. I don't know if I've ever seen play. Yeah. That's one of those cards that I think just has gotten swept out for purposes of let's make room for some playable cards.
Yeah.
Sad to say. But the big deal cards, right? AstroScript, Breaking News, San, so iconic, so fundamental, incredible pressure pieces for the faction for so long, showed up in almost every deck. And a lot of us still remember the days of Astro into Astro into Astro.
The train.
That train. It was rough, man. But on the other side, you had those high moments of, as the runner, those top deck Astro moments where you just am like, I have reached El Dorado. I have found the golden temple. Like that it was so valuable, but such a swing. So definitely a strong card, one of the best in the game, if not the best card for when it was around. And I am not sad to see it go, but I'm sure there's some people who miss that the ease at which that archetype existed, primarily because of these cards.
From a core set perspective, you're looking at NBN taking such a smash to the face in their whole style, from their whole roots of what NBN is. This is a core set that is radically different from the core set that was produced to us that were there at the beginning. That being said, the card pool is still very, very open, and we see that with CTM doing so well at Worlds still. So NBN is not long gone. So when we talk about how much things have changed here, this is just basically looking at a core set perspective from someone who opens it up and what they're getting here. It's really those two agendas and San City Grid. That was the masonry that NBN was built on, and just to see it go like that is pretty crazy. Like, and that, not to see that we weren't primed for it, as Astro kept getting slapped around over the years on as the most wanted list evolved, and Breaking News, and even San to an extent. So it's not to say that these cards weren't already at a competitive level being played handicapped. But to have them fully removed now as non-choices, it really stops some of the fast advanced shenanigans that NBN had, and it will be interesting to see what paves the way. Will NBN change its flavor?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're onto a really interesting thought there, that because these cards were so good, you had to be really careful from a design perspective of where you take that faction and how many tools you give them. And if this set of fast advance options is so good in any NBN deck, you're just putting more fuel on the fire of the power of that faction, because the fundamentals are so strong. And the kind of shenanigans that you alluded to, I think we're really getting at a critical mass near the end there, before the announcement of revised core, right? The exchange of information shenanigans, just really, I think, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because it was just so good in a way that maybe these cards in a core only environment or early in the day of Netrunner were not as highly abused. But yeah, since then they've only gotten better, and them gone, I agree, is really interesting new ground for the faction to tread.
For the most part, it feels like Joshua Swinner, mentions in the chat, like it feels like a lot of NBN basically got neutered, but CTM is still a relevant ID for the faction. For those who don't know, CTM is controlling the message, which is a newer NBN identity, and I feel like CTM is it's a different play style that it lends itself to, right? It's very tag heavy, usually very asset heavy, or very horizontal. Joshua also mentioned, the cost of, like, even Sansan. If you look at the cost of Sansan to trash for its effect, its trash cost is 5. That is just so high for such a powerful effect. Mm-hmm. So within that faction, you had the ability to tax the runner out, have this amazingly quick way to score, and to the runner's detriment, tax them just far too heavily to have them blitz and stop you from having that quick advantage like that. I mean, it was very, very difficult for runners, and very much meant that you had to play a very quick economy style deck, likely criminal, right, to swing it that fast. So run anti fast events tools. So and it, like, to all that compounds and what you already mentioned. At some point, you hit a design space limit, I believe, where you have to tiptoe so carefully around so many cards that you print, because you're going, does this make this archetype too strong? Is this too much now that can fit in this one basket that now it's problematic? Mm-hmm. So it's a big sweeping change, but I think that ultimately they'll end up getting some replacements or modifications that are much not better, but comparable, fairly comparable.
Well, I think this really changes where the game could go from a tempo perspective. You look at what happened, like when NBN came out, even though they had a good core set, they weren't the best core out of the box. They were still missing pieces that got flushed out later when NBN became dominant, and still haven't won a World's Championships. So the thing with it is that it was HB when the game started, and it was this glacier style because people were playing the game as what they thought it was supposed to be played. The Corp, is going to set up some defenses, and the runner is going to get kind of set up with the pieces they need, and they're going to run and steal agendas. But when NBN flushed out and got the fast advanced pieces they need, it killed Glacier because it forced the runner to speed up. You had to be faster. You had to get your pieces faster than the corporation could get at, because 9 times out of 10 you were playing some kind of fast advanced build. And with the runner speeding up, that forced a whole style of gameplay, which was the Glacier, which needed that time to like install, get its pieces, build its servers out. You couldn't find that time to play that style. So eliminating the fast advanced pieces might pull back to a more of a, you know, at least like, let's kind of get set up phase, and the runner can then slow down again. So I think we're seeing the ebbs and flows of this game being flushed out. And then as we get into what's in and stuff like that, I mean, maybe NBN turns into this surprise faction where it's a whole lot of bubbling and fizzing, and then pops with the style of things like Project Beal, you know. So it could be just like, bam, like I'm just gonna over advance this agenda, and the game could be over, or the game could be like halfway over, right? So or, you know, maybe Beal's just there because it's the 3-2 and it fits in the style, and
it's a great card.
It's kind of the core. It's kind of a fun kind of card to have in a casual. You know, if you don't go past core set, it's kind of cool. But that's all I have to say about what is out.
Its absence will certainly be missed.
Yeah.
I'll pour some out for my NBN homies.
Yeah. Hollis, you want to take a look at what's in?
What is in? I'm down. All right, here we go. Here's the list for what's in NBN. Wow.
Yeah. What's trending? What's trending?
What's trending right now in NBN? Let me tell you, Jameson. This is what's trending. Project Bill is trending. It's kind of at the top of the list. Project Bill.
You're getting stock in Project Bill.
Yeah, you want to buy that immediately. It's like Bitcoin. TGTBT, Too Good to Be True. Speaking of
Bitcoin.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. TGTBT is still in. Flare, the very expensive piece of ice, is still in. Pop-up window is still in. Wraparound is still in. And as Steven from Team Covenant would say, Mrs. Bend It Like Bernice Mai is still in. I will never forget the first time he said that. I could not stop myself. Bend It Like Bernice. But yeah, Bernice Mai is still in. Which I'm gonna be honest, actually, a lot of these cards that were kept in from sets that have rotated out are amazing. I would say there's only one that I don't care about, really.
Bernice.
There's only like one. No, it's not. No, Bernice is awesome.
Flare.
Yeah, it's Flare. Because I think at this point it's pretty clear how good another piece of ice that I think is a more taxing piece of ice that stayed is, which is Tollbooth. I think that NBN has some very good ice that are available to them now, and Flare was not on my short list of things I think I would have kept from previous cycles. That being said, more ice doesn't hurt. I guess someone out there will find a use for Flare if a deck archetype that cares about damage and doesn't mind spending 9 finds a way to fit it in. It's one of those things where it's like, could it have been moved out for better cards? Sure, but it is ice, right? I feel like when it comes to ice and agendas, you can't be too picky. If they're going to give you extras of those, it's fine. And we have to, I guess this is also in reference to, we have to think about it. Maybe this is produced knowing that it's just it by itself for new players. Flare's not so bad. As a new player, a piece of ice, it teaches you that ice can be damaging in this faction. It does something different than just tag you in the run, which I'm okay with.
It's also got a trace on it, which synergizes with the ID. So
that's true. That is true. I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a fine piece of ice to remain. What do you guys think about some of the other cards that are left in though? Like obviously Project Bill, right?
Oh, yeah. I think there are so many of these cards that are really staples of the faction that it's hard for me to envision a game without some of these cards because they're so iconic, right? Pop-up window and wraparound are two of the most widely spread ice out of NBN in other factions. And they really have their own unique place in the game, which is really strong. And then Beal, I think, is a fantastic agenda. It's one of the strongest agendas in the game, in my opinion. And I really like that they kept the interaction of Beal and psychographics in the core set. It's another one of those little puzzles for a new player to say, here's a way you can do this extremely cool thing. Figure it out, right? Put the pieces together. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's a solid package, and they support this new direction out of the core set for the faction, and that's taxing and tagging as another form of tax, which I think is super cool. So I'm happy.
If you're gonna look at what could have been done and what you can kind of manipulate with NBN from what was available, they really did keep some key pieces. Pulling in Project Beal, pulling in Too Good to Be True, pop-up window, wraparound, just pure gold. That being said, you guys pretty touched on what was in. I'll say what didn't make the cut. That was crazy. Let's start off with a replacement. Flare was okay. Flare was kind of just blah for me. Like it was way heavily costed. If they were going to include it, they should have really kind of somehow changed it up. This card is not worth playing. But I really think it's only there for the people that don't make it past core, the casual people this card is not too complex. It's a very heavy trace happening, and it's a little bit of meat damage. It's some damage held on the runner side. Trash one piece of hardware. So it's flavorful in the fact that it gives someone playing this core variety, some options and choices, and I think that's what the design team did when they looked at this. But for me going forward, I don't know. I mean, if you want to go 1-for-1 for expensive stuff, I think Snoop would have been a lot cooler. Just from a thematic perspective of NBN, like, let me look at everything you have and I'll choose which one trashes. So that would have been, I thought, really cool than over Flare. But I think the one that okay, so obviously let's go. I don't think Muckraker is worth a save. Just to cover some of the other pieces of ice there. But I think RSVP might have been a cool one to save going forward. And I mean, I don't think it's going to see more or less play than what Flare is, or did even, right? So I just think that the options and some of the maybe cooler combos could be set up later on, more interesting interaction with RSVP than with what you can get from Flare.
Yeah, RSVP's always been a really interesting one. It definitely rewards smart play, and like as we said many times throughout these revised core overviews, the instances of giving new players opportunities to learn the importance of things like ice position or timing certain things or scoring windows is really cool. I don't know how accessible RSVP is as a piece of ice in terms of that, like understanding the best way to use it. But I do agree it's a cool card.
And then I can tell you that the card that I will miss the most is not Jackson Howard. Obviously, we can say that that is now gone from the game. It was very interesting to see some of the games played.
Who's Jackson Howard?
Yeah, who? Jay who?
Jay Howard.
Jay who? It was interesting to see a high competitive level of play without him. It's very interesting. It's not shipments from Sansan, which again, was a piece that CI was, missing. So that's I'm glad that that's gone. To me, it's sweeps.
Damn.
I really do not understand why sweeps wasn't kept, but Celebrity Gift was in Jinteki, right? Like, we all know that NBN hurts for money, except for sweeps weeks. Like, this was their style. Like, you gave Jinteki Celebrity Gift. Why couldn't you keep sweeps weeks? Unless they just thought it was too powerful, or it kind of like, if it served its duty in time. But I really loved sweeps weeks. I really loved it. If people have seen some of my deck's buildings before, this was my surprise out of faction play, because it was a really great recovery card if you had no money. I know Siphon's gone, and this was like Siphon defense for me, where if I did get Siphon to 0, I could gain a credit, and then hopefully the runner has cards in hands, which most likely they will. I'll be able to play this one and then still be able to do something on that turn. So it really helped you recover from 0 a lot quicker. And maybe they just didn't want that in the game because it did so much like that. But I don't know. I'm gonna miss you, Sweeps Week. We had some great times together, and it's sad to see you go. But maybe if I let you go and it was meant to be, you'll come back to me.
Okay. All right, Jameson.
Man, there was nothing sweeter than that turn 1 sweeps against Andromeda.
Yeah,
that was
right?
That was legendary. Nice.
Jameson, why is it when you were describing Sweeps Week, I kept thinking a Sarah McLachlan song needed to be playing in the background? Very emotional scenario.
I don't know, because maybe it's because you're stereotyping Canadians, or it's the Canadian connection.
I'm stereotyping Canadians? You're probably right, though. Probably right.
Every time we have big long speeches, people want to play Sarah McLachlan over top of it.
Damn.
Okay. Wow. I love it. I love it. Wrap around is solid. I was going to just throw that out there. Just throwing it out there. Wrap around is solid.
Yeah.
Have a window, solid. Like, I think those remain because they're so good.
You know who I really love is Vincent in chat. When he always comes with these one-liners, man. When he was like wasn't he the guy that brought Lycan back, eh?
Oh God, no.
Subscribe.
No.
Like and subscribe. Share, like and subscribe. And now he's got the weep hashtag weep for sweeps.
There you go.
Weep for sweeps.
Yeah.
Oh my. What do you guys think of this Bernie Smythe thing? How do you feel about Bernie Smythe remaining? Wait, does it make you feel good? Do you think that she fits somewhere?
I think they just kind of needed some upgrade options, and like, what else are you going to say for upgrades, right? Like, you killed an upgrade. You kind of need to, I feel, replace it to be an upgrade. And again, just for the fact that let's learn the faction, let's flush it out. So.
Yep, it gives that nice little tag. I think it's solid. I think it. You look back at the first 2 cycles, and NBN really had a couple of stinker cards that basically never saw play. So if you're looking for stuff to fill in those card slots, your options are kind of limited. And I think of the limited options, Bernice Mai is not bad.
Yeah, but I mean, I always think when somebody says it's, how you doing? And they're like, not bad. I'm like, well, you know what? That also means not good also. So when you say she's not bad, I'm like, yeah, but she's not good.
So, well, let me clarify. When I mean not bad, I mean not bad for the faction as a whole. I think there are specific decks that benefit from that kind of effect. And so for those decks, it's a boon. but those are fairly niche relative to the whole card pool.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the core set, there's just better ways to drop a tag, man. Like all of this rigmarole for one tag, but you know, like we said, like what else could you have left, right?
Yeah.
Nope, never mind.
You know, Chilo City Grid.
Marked accounts.
Marked accounts was an asset.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty barren, unfortunately. And who knows? Bernice Mai could be part of a type of deck that has so much tagging in one server that it becomes crazy town. Like if you've got prize sec,
sugar,
you're my tagging butterfly. Like Bernice Mai, prize sec, KP Lin, into a TGBT, right? Like you could, if you really put a huge number of these cards in one server, you could really surprise an unsuspecting runner.
Yeah, but that's a lot of setup.
It's a lot of setup, right? Again, very, very niche deck, but I think it has a place in the game.
Yeah, I just think they needed an upgrade. And that's Bernice was there. You know, she got promoted by default.
I think she remained so the phrase "bend it like Bernice" would persist.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with this.
And hey, dedicated response team is still in the game. That's a
there we go
combo. Boom.
I mean, do we have to talk about the same? I mean, Making News got kept. Obviously, I think it's the better ID of the two, especially for a teaching ID from a core set. Ghost Branch, awesome. Kind of a little trickery there. Data Raven, clutch.
Classic.
Toll Booth, clutch.
Yeah.
Right? Anonymous Tip, okay. I mean, yeah, sweep sweep anonymous tip, but you're okay for now. Closed accounts, clutch. Psychographics, obviously the synergy with Beal, there's no sense having one without the other.
Okay.
And then C Source, and then obviously Red Herring is just hanging around, but I mean, just if anything from that list really kind of got pulled away, they'd probably be, I'd probably have to take up pen and write them a nasty letter.
Yeah, it's super iconic, it's super classic, very solid, and really you look at these cards in a slightly different way without the existence of all their fast advanced tools. And I can't tell you the number of times recently online that I've been playing games where you've got a remote of Data Raven into some other piece of taxing ice like Data Ward or Toll Booth or IP Block or whatever, and then a Red Herrings or a double Red Herrings and an Ash. That's just been my hell recently. Because
how'd you let that get set up, man?
I know it's brutal.
Double reds on you.
Well, I didn't even realize that you could stack those, but they just kept slamming cards in that server, and you put an agenda in there, you run down it, and it's so taxing, right? And it's all out of this core set that this stuff, you really have to respect the tax and understand how you play around or prepare yourself economically for dealing with these cards, because they might not keep you out, but they're pretty potent if you want to go all the way in.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I really have nothing that I would pull out of that list.
I was just going to ask how you guys feel about C-Source still being in the game without old Scorched Earth.
Notice my face.
I think it's still good. I think it's still a viable way to drop tag, and I think you're gonna you're gonna need it like later on. It's one of the best surprising tag cards from hand, I think. That's just, if you were to pull that out, that leaves a void, like too big a hole in the game, and you kind of, all you're going to end up doing is reprinting the effect and just kind of modifying it so someone, copy paste, change the name. So you might as well keep it in. Other factions kind of need it. If Wayland needs to tag, I feel like they're still kind of probably going to reach towards. If you need the surprise tag from hand, you will probably see Source.
Yeah, fair enough.
Even without Scorch now, the primary way damage is done is probably through like Boom or some like asset and whatnot. I feel like there is still a use for having the ability to give the runner a single tag. You still have cards like closed accounts. You still have cards like, in general, you still have cards, you still can just trash a resource. I think that there is a design space that they can now use again for single tag concepts. I think, if I may say so, I think Scorch is gone because I think they felt like the amount of damage Scorch does for a single tag might be too much. Like, it doesn't feel like it's the right power level for a single tag. That doesn't mean they can't reintroduce mechanics that require the runner to have only one single tag and do something else. What? I don't know. But I feel like the removal of Scorch on like being the main thing you did when the runner had a tag opens up again design space. I mean, with tags on the runner, they could do anything. Like they could add a great series of events or abilities that trigger off of the runner having a tag. So keeping them a little tiny card that just sits in the box, even that just says you have your advantage for giving the runner one single tag is a neat trick to have available. I think it's nice.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
So anything else you guys want to say on NBN as a whole?
I think I would like to jump in and just say I think they're okay. I think that in order to get back to having more archetypes available that people can play, I think the card pool will just need to be refilled. Because if we're going to be honest, if we look at the first. What game came out in 2012? So if you want to look, and these changes are only in the last year, right? So if we want to look at the game since from 2012 to 2016, for the most part, for the bulk of the time NBN has existed, they've had Fast Advance as a separate main win condition, main play archetype for them. Now that's basically removed, it's done better in HB decks for the most part. It's going to take time for more cards to come out that increase their ability to actually benefit from that style of gameplay, or maybe even have something new implemented. So I think what we're seeing is we're seeing, just like from Core 1 before they got Bill and a whole bunch of other tools, we're again seeing the groundwork for what they're going to do next. This is time that they went back to the drawing board a little bit. They're going, okay, how do we not bust this up? How do we give them available options, but they're not ridiculous?
Yeah, I agree. I think NBN's always been, since they started to get those really powerful pieces, really been the faction to watch, right? That will set the pace for the meta, set the style of the game. It's going to be a fast game. It's going to be a tracing game. It's going to be an economy game. Like, what's going to be that emphasis? And NBN is always right there. And their pieces are really fundamental to the way the runner plays the game. So I agree. They have a really interesting set of possible future directions, and I think the fundamentals that we see here will always be core to any of the directions that they end up going.
Yeah, cool. I don't have nothing to add to that. So let's move on to the neutrals from the corporation side. So
Oh boy.
So nothing was cut.
Nice.
Everybody's on the team.
Everybody.
You did great, boys. You did great.
Hunter, you're in too. Someone will play you.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Hunter, get in there. It's like what?
That's a good analogy, Hollis.
That's a good one, boys. Everyone's on the team. That's what it feels like. It's like the coach just said, "Listen, there aren't any cuts. You're all in. Good job."
Everyone
like,
gets a participation prize tonight.
Yeah, it's
nice. Going out for pizza afterwards.
Hey. Yeah, everybody eats apparently.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So let's look at the same. So priority requisition, private security force. Are your agendas there? Melange mining, pad, Enigma, Hunter, wall of static, and hedge fund. Obviously, they couldn't touch hedge fund. Obviously, I would say. Pad campaign, pretty much a staple. They would have had to redesign something because there was nothing that could take that place from a Genesis or spin cycle replacement perspective. Wall of static, blah. Okay, you got some choices there. Hunter, I guess in a core set you wanted, you kept it around, but it wasn't dead in the water. I've seen decks include a Hunter.
Same.
But and then Enigma, right? So, I guess they just felt like, like Hollis said, that was just that was perfect enough neutral to be to flush out some of these other factions and do the job.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid set, and I think they really define some of the fundamentals of each of those ice types. Enigma, in particular, I think is a really solid card and really defines code gates and code gate life. And I wouldn't count out Wall of Static, to be fair. Having played in a revised core set only tournament, barriers were a real pain to break. And so I think for a new player, they're going to, in a core only environment, respect the static because it can really slow you down. But yeah, I think they're good cards to have around just to fill in the gaps of where ice in faction might not be able to make up for it.
Hollis, would you cut anything there? Other than Hunter?
No, this is, dude, I'm being real. When I looked at this whole list, and this includes Hunter, I feel like this is solid. Like when I think about a core set, obviously they wanted to keep everything that was in the existing core set cards, but like the things that remained the same, whatever. Like this is like all of these cards are good. Like especially if you look at core only, Hunter seems garbage until you're like, well, we need ice, and Hunter does tag, and it does combo with private security force if they're floating tags. Like it just feels like this like we saw in core 1, right? This fills those gaps when you don't have, the 3x of the other agenda that is new in this pack. If you just have core, this is a great base. This is a great base to have to mess around with.
So I'm going to toss two alternatives out at you from an ice perspective.
I'm ready.
The first two cycles. Instead of Hunter, you have the options of Draco or Grim.
Whoo!
Some pretty memorable cards.
Grim.
Haven't seen a lot of play lately, but
Grim.
Some to keep in mind. Yeah, Grim. Yeah. I mean, you got to respect that Grim. If you're not ready,
yeah,
it's coming at you.
I think that I think the thing with what this set does is the same as the other set, and that is you included a mechanic in the game and you don't make it prevalent in a core set. Like I remember punching out the bad publicity tokens and thinking like, why do I really need so many of these things? I think Grim as a when you res it, taking a bad publicity, again, is I think it was I think it's an awesome learning mechanic, and I don't see any reason why this piece of ice shouldn't have been included in the game, because it does promote diversity and choice, right? Like, it's not an end the run, but it's you know, that it's going to teach you that it's all about timing. Like, you can have a piece of ice down there, and it's going to be timing on when you res that. Maybe they don't have a program up right now, and they're just face checking or doing stuff. Well, you can keep it down, and then you know, play that little bit of a mind game and stuff like that. I really, you know, Grim is on my list. It was on my list of ones to say, like, I really wish that had have carried over. I don't think there was a need to keep it out of core for a new player perspective.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Jameson. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
Well, I just feel like Draco only seemed, man, the last time I saw Draco played, if I recall, man, here's a Netrunner history lesson.
Hey,
it was I think it was Andrew Veen versus Eric Jins at the 2013 Netrunner World Champ, I believe.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, that was the finals that was on stream, and, you know, Draco was a very device to that point in NBN, but that's because the majority of players at that time were playing Making News. And so Draco, instead of Draco only being like a Trace 2 ice, it was a very inexpensive ice that would be a Trace 4. And the thing is, Hunter already costs 1 and is a Trace 4. It can't in the run or anything like that, but it can just straight up, hey, pay 3 to 4 credits or take a tag. And I feel like if all you really care about is a tag, Hunter's pretty fairly costed, because that is what it does. So I don't think Draco is inherently better than Hunter in that regard. I think Hunter's probably better. But then when I look at Grim, I agree. I think that Grim, one, introduces a mechanic into the game that I think in a core set you want to make players used to. They need to know, hey, bad publicity is a mechanic, and it can be very good, it can be very bad. Someone in the chat even mentioned, especially knowing that Elizabeth Mills exists in the core set, it would have been awesome to even have that synergy there, so you can say, hey, everybody can use Grim, and Elizabeth Mills, like, is a little bit too influenced. Maybe that's a strategy.
Great point.
Yeah, maybe that's a strategy where you both players can utilize Grim plus E Mills as an influence, and this adds diversity to any deck they really play. So I like it. I really think it's cool.
Yeah.
Or you did like it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I did.
It's gone.
Looking at what was kept, I do think that false leads was a very important keep.
Absolutely.
False lead, singular, was a very important keep. What that card brings to the table for options in play and building diverse, like, different agenda suites, compositions in this core, it was a no-brainer, including false lead.
Absolutely. Particularly, I think for me, because personal evolution and false lead have such nice little synergies there. It's a one-pointer. It's got a really potent effect, and it really forces you as a runner to respect that line of play. I remember playing in a regionals event against a guy playing personal evolution. He had a scored false lead there, and I kept having to run first click or third click, and I just had to stay within those parameters, because he had that threat there of, if you run last click and you hit something nasty like a snare, that's bad.
Yeah.
But if you run earlier in the turn to try and avoid that last click run and you hit something nasty, he just pops false lead and your turn's over.
Yeah.
And you got caught.
Doesn't give you those recuperation turns, you know?
Right. It's a really strong threat in the right circumstances. So I think it's really cool for that ID and many other decks. So I'm a fan.
I'm going to go in agreement with both of you. I'm actually going to go with what I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. Thrasnos1 has said in chat. He said, "Man, false lead is such a cool agenda. And honestly, when I think about it, the card is so. It feels like False Lead is a card that is like we just talked about. Like you guys just mentioned, is only really good and only really great in very particular deck archetypes. And most of the time, even in that, there's probably better choices. But it is so cool, right? Like thematically, like the plan with the card. If you have a kill strategy, that is a terrifying agenda to see.
We need those
on the corp side.
PE.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right.
1 point adventures.
Yeah, they need one point agendas there to make sure that they can do the 1,000 cuts concept. Yeah. And it's so cool to know it's such a dangerous card to see on the corp side. If you're a runner and your opponent scores that, you're like, oh crap. Like I can't, like you said, it's like I know that I can only run pretty much on this or this because if I mess up, I could just die, and then that messes up all of my strategy, all of my like. When am I drawing? When am I gaining an economy? I wanted to make the run this turn, but I guess I really can't. Yeah. I guess I got to let your cards float in your hand for a little while longer.
Man, I've even seen double false lead scored, and so the corp can install advance on naked 3-pointer and then forfeit both false leads to deny you your entire turn and score a 3-pointer for free, right? Yes. Like that's doable, and that's the options that card opens up.
Hard pump that Beal.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. I'm a fan.
Yeah. Also, props to FFG for taking note that they kept PE, and so this card stayed right. Like it's like clearly they were like, wait a minute, add this. This one gets added.
I know, right? As we've seen, some of the other cooler ones that got dropped, not very heavily played, but Veterans Program and Profiteering both have now sailed off into the sunset.
Man, if you want to look at agendas, I think you go no further than NAPD contract.
Yeah, that's I was gonna warm up to that one, but that's gonna be missed.
It's a card.
Yeah.
Do you think that we live in a world where that could have been saved, or is it just that damage? Is it just too damaging?
That's a tough one, man. I think there are enough cards right now that really focus on the runner's credit pool. Brian Stinson, Hard Hitting News, that little extra bit of tax, I don't know.
It's just too much, eh?
It might be critical mass, and that's a hard thing because we haven't seen NAPD in a while, so it's hard to remember the times when you had to go into that server with 4 credits. I don't know. It was like really iconic, but I think it had its time.
I'll tell you the one piece that I'm really gonna miss NAPD for the first half of that card that everyone forgets and just skips over.
Yeah. Yeah.
The advancement requirement is increased for 1 for each bad publicity the corp has. Like there's people out there probably to this day that still does not know that line is on that card.
Yep.
So many mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, even in competitive play, right? Like it was happening. People would be like, "Oh crap, I got a single bad pub. Oh no, I forgot." Like, so I don't know how do we correct this.
If I really believe that if this was in a vacuum experience and you were rebooting a game that would go no further than core, I think NAPD contract would be amazing to include because again it leverages, it shows you the downfalls of having bad publicity, giving you that negative reason and tying it with a positive boost as that tax on there 4-2, all that stuff. If it was in a vacuum, everything there is perfect. But I know why it wasn't. It was because outside that vacuum in the world of competitive play, this card is just really strong.
I mean, I feel like I don't even know how to like say this correctly, I guess, but I feel like right before the Core 2 rotation, certain runner decks had such economy to where let's rewind. If we go back to as a history lesson, if we go back as a history lesson and we look at NAPD, pretty much when it landed, it hit the spot, right? This is before it was ever on the most wanted list or whatever. The games were made or broken based on how early NAPDs were hit by the runner. And it was I remember Worlds is an example. Worlds is a prime example, right? If Min had run on click 4 instead of click 3 and gained the credit on click 3, he would have had the 4 to still.
History would be different.
Right, history would be different. Like it's a clear example of the kind of impact that card made. So when you look at that, when you see how impactful that card can be, how good that is also depends on the available runner economy. And I think right before the Core 2 rotation, we're at the point where runner economy for some decks were so good that I don't think the card would have been as impactful. But I would worry now that economy's been tapered down a little bit for certain factions. NAPD becomes again a much better card comparatively, because now the runners don't make as much money as they can. The available options to them are a bit more limited for economy. So NAPD just gets an even bigger boost.
Well said, man. Well said on that compare.
Whew. Man, I love that agenda though. Man, I miss that.
Yeah. It was nice. Another, there are some cool ones that I'll miss. I hopefully that maybe we're seeing the downfall of fast advance, and that's why we don't need the little quandary. Enigma's little one there.
Classic.
Paperwall got replaced pretty much, so let that one sail on. Cyberdeck's trial was redone, better.
Whew. Yeah. Yep.
Right. Subliminal messaging, it was okay.
Had its place.
Yeah. Right. But
decks.
I think the big one or the next major non-include on that list is restructure. It wasn't dominant, and it wasn't out of control, but it did see its fair share of play.
Yeah, I think with the release of IPO, you get a pretty similar effect in a slightly different way, but they're close enough that I'd argue restructure became less and less necessary over the life of the game.
Yeah, but I just like it there as options. Not so much. I think that I think the money options in Core are really well, and I think that's why they just didn't want to keep all these style of money cards compiling in. So yeah, I think it was left out for that reason, but that's one that I think will definitely be missing from me. So there you go. You guys have any other thoughts on stuff that should have been in, should have been not in? Hollis, you going to make an argument for interns?
I do like the card, but now we're like way past it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like looking at specifically what we talked about today, I think that it was really interesting. Someone in chat mentioned that it's almost like NBN has been kind of knocked down to a tier more closely to everyone else, and I think that's fine. I think that that's an adjustment that truthfully needed to happen. And I think it allows for more design space. So while I will miss it, I will miss those options. It makes me very hopeful for what comes in the future for NBN. And then as far as the neutrals go, I think it's a solid list. I think neutrals are a solid list of new cards that have been added. And with the exception, like we talked about Grim, there's not much I would change from that list. I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely would have liked to see Grim included. So that's our take. And that's about it for me.
Nice.
I think it was said nicely in conclusion there. Alec?
I'll agree with you, Hollis. I think you wrapped it up just about as well as you could. It's a solid set with solid cards. Can't complain that much.
Sheesh. This doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
Guys, thank you very much for coming out and bearing through this task for new players. I'm glad that we were able to broadcast the chat or tag the chat messages into our videos, so when people go back and watch this stuff, they will not only see our inputs, but they will see, you know, your guys as well, so they will be able to make the choices based on that. I think that about wraps it up here for us. We will be back next week. It will be the last episode before these guys have their Thanksgiving Day break, and I just have a day off from work and watch football. Thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't clicked that like button yet, if you didn't do it at the beginning or joined late, please do it now. We really appreciate the support for the small things like that. Guys, anything in closing?
Dead air. No, I am just going all the way back. In general, I think that I'm very happy with Core Set 2.0. I'm happy that we had a chance to actually, you know, talk about it in its entirety. I know a lot of people, I know it took a while, took multiple weeks, but I think it was worth it. I think we like this change so much that we felt like even if it had gotten kind of sort of old, we wanted to just touch it thoroughly because we enjoy what they were doing with Core 2, including the rotation. I'm happy that we took the time to do it. Props to again, back from the beginning of the episode, props to people that went to Worlds this year, performed their best. I give a few shout outs in the beginning, but I'll give them out again. Props, Wolfie Hort, my boy, my family. I'm so happy for you, man. Congratulations, world champ. Props to Abram Job. Undefeated in Swiss is disgustingly good. Like, you are a freak of nature to be that good. Great job. And props to many, many others there that participated at Worlds this year. Slops to me for not going. That's basically that's my wrap up for today for me.
And my buddy Seamus still looking quite dapper.
Man, I don't think he knows how to look anything else. Like,
dude, it ain't in his
clean
vocabulary. He ain't traveling this far to to have a thread out of place, I will tell you. And he is very, very dangerous to play against. Shout outs to again to the people that I missed out there, the UK Daves, all of them, Hoyland, Mark, Alex, sorry we couldn't make it out there this time. Hopefully our paths will cross in the future. Hopefully your paths will cross with us soon. Next week, same time. We will be seeing you then. Let's just say that.
See you guys.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.
Should I just let that roll for a bit?
Yes. It's going to put on a loop. We're going to get Alec beatboxing, and it'll be bye-bye. Hey.
Fade to black. Like, subscribe. Path to Carcosa is so good. Take care, guys.
See you.